All right, boys and girls, welcome back to another fun, exciting video from Mr. Z. Hopefully you're all opening your workbooks to page 106, which is Unit 1, Lesson 17, Squares and Cubes. So today we're going to be investigating, we're going to be looking at what are perfect squares and what are perfect cubes, okay? So we're at the top of page 106. Let's read the first one. The number 9 is a perfect square. And the reason 9 is a perfect square is, do you see how this figure right here, it makes a perfect square? It's made up of squares, but it makes it a square. It's not a rectangle where it's like this, where it's a 2x4. That's not a perfect square. This is a perfect square. And the reason we know the number 9 is perfect because there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 little for the area there. So 9 makes a perfect square. The first question I have is, can you guys find 4 numbers that are perfect squares and 2 numbers that are not? So we already know 9 is a number that's a perfect square. And we know 8 probably isn't, like this one here, because it's a 2x4. 8 is not a perfect square. Can you guys find 4 other numbers that are perfect squares and 2 numbers that are not? Then I want you to try to answer questions 2 and 3. Okay, so you guys are going to have, I'll give you guys, let's give you 3 minutes to work on this individually. So try to come up with answer questions 1, 2, and 3. You got about 3 minutes on this. So the teacher's going to have to pause the video. And then after those 3 minutes are up, they can resume the video again and we'll go over these answers. So pause the video. Thank you. All right, welcome back. So we are on this one. Which numbers are perfect squares? So I noticed in this figure right here, this was a 3x3, which gave you an area of 9 on the inside. So a perfect square is pretty much any time you have a square that has the same number of sides, and then it's the total area. So suppose I had a square that was a 4x4. Well, to find the area of it, you'd do 4 times 4, which is 16. So 16 is a perfect square. Another one is 25, because that's the same as 5 times 5. That's another perfect square, is 25. So is 36, which is a 6x6. You could do 100, which is a 10x10. Any 2 numbers multiplied by itself give you that perfect square. I can list off many more, but I would say the main ones you need to know are 1, 4, 9, 16, 25, 36, 49, 64, 64, 81, and 100. Those are the first perfect numbers that are perfect squares. Any of the numbers that are not those are not perfect squares. So if you said the number like 3, that is not a perfect square. So on and so forth. All right. Number 2, a square has a side length of 7 kilometers. What is its area? Well, I would just draw the square. And if it's a 7x7, you would do the base times the height. So the area of this is 49 square kilometers. That would be the area of this one. Number 3 is a little trickier because this one, it's actually giving you the area. So it's saying the inside there's 64. What's the side length? Well, it's hard because we don't know, because there's 2 side lengths that it could be. However, we know they're the same side. So what number times itself gives us 64? It's actually 8, because 8 times 8 is 64. So each side length would actually be 8 centimeters. And it's centimeters because if you remember from the last one, centimeters is a length. When we're doing a side length, it's centimeters. So that would be the first activity. We're going to stay on page 106 as we continue on. Okay, so continuing down on the page, do you see this section 17.2? Your teacher will give you 32 snap cubes. Use them to build the largest single cube you can. Yeah, Mr. Z was not in the mood to get his snap cubes out today, so you guys are going to skip this section right here, 17.2. You guys are going to skip. We're going to move on to 17.3. Okay, so now we are on page 106. We're going to look at the number. The number 27 is called a perfect cube. That's different than what we said with the perfect square, because look, this is a perfect cube. I want to kind of talk about this one real quick before I let you guys get to work. So a perfect cube, do you see how this shape is a perfect cube? It's not just a prism, but you could actually make it into a cube. So the number 27 is important because this one represents the volume of this shape. So if we knew here we have a 3 by 3 by 3 cube here, we would know the volume. If we remember our volume formula, it's length times width times height for the volume. So this one has a volume of 27. And if we had those snap cubes from the previous activity, you would know you could make a 27 figure, or 27 cubes would make this figure. So this has a volume of 27 cubic centimeters, assuming these were all centimeters. So 27 is what we call a perfect cube because you could make it a 3 by 3 by 3. So your activity right now is you need to find 4 other numbers that are perfect cubes. We know 27 is one of them. You need to find 4 more that could be perfect cubes. And I want you to write those down in your workbooks. Then I want you to answer questions 2, 3, and 4. However, questions 2, 3, and 4, right here, 2, 3, and 4, right here, those are actually on page 107. You have to look on page 107, and you'll answer those questions as well. So once again, you're going to be trying to find other numbers other than 27 that you think are perfect cubes, and then you also need to find 2 that are not perfect cubes. Then you'll look at page 107 and you're going to try to find the answer to questions 2, 3, and 4. On this activity, we are going to give you guys, let's give you guys about, I'll give you 7 minutes to complete questions 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, so the teacher's going to have to pause the video, and I'll give you guys 7 minutes to work on this. All right, boys and girls, hopefully you're able to complete this task. So I want to see if you could find 4 other numbers that are perfect cubes. I'm going to list those on the right now. So you can see the numbers that I have in red. Those are all the numbers that are perfect squares. The way I found all of them was, once again, you take a number, multiply it by itself 3 times, just like we did with the volume of that cube. Because if you have a 2 by 2 by 2 cube, 2 by 2 by 2 cube, it would have a volume of 8. Or if you had a 5 by 5 by 5 cube, it would have a volume of 125. It would take 125 squares or cubes to make that perfect cube with 5 on each side. All right, number 2. A cube has a side length of 4 centimeters. What is its volume? Once again, we are going to use that volume formula. So we would take 4 times 4 times 4. Luckily, I already did that work over on the right-hand side. It's going to be 64. And then since we're doing volume, it's going to be cubic centimeters. Number 3, a cube has a side length of 10. What is its volume? Once again, I would do 10 times 10 times 10 for a total of 1,000. This is going to be cubic inches, because once again, we're talking about volume. For the last one, if we have any side length s, so if we don't know what it is, you would just take that number s and multiply it by itself 2 more times. The more formal way we write this is we would say it would be s to the 3rd power. So it's basically saying we're doing s and multiplying it by itself 3 times. Now, we'll continue the next part of the lesson on the next video. So once again, we'll be on page 107, and we'll continue on the next video.